Hey, what the hell are you doing walking around dressed like Star Wars?
It's Comic-Con, you idiot. We're going to the Javits Center.
Well, you're the idiots, because you three guys would never be walking together.
Yeah, you're his boss, and you two guys are enemies.
Yeah, bite me, Captain Kirk.
Hey, whoa, come on. No, that's Star Trek.
Yeah, that's two different franchises.
Yeah, sorry, guys. She doesn't know.
Nah, it's okay. I'm sorry you have to deal with that.
Let's go.
Oh, hey, come on. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. Not worth it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanzone Debate. We are here for a very exciting match. We got Adelaide Spence going up against Brooklyn Vail. Last time we saw both these people was in the Last Word event. Spence being the runner-up, if you will, in that event. Really good performance there. And you both were there. That was exciting. We saw Brooklyn there as well. We haven't seen Brooklyn in a regular season match since last year, but looking forward to seeing Brooklyn back in the ring against Spence. So it's going to be very exciting, and let's just get into it. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to bring in the players, and it is going to work like this. They each gave two categories, one from Fandom, one from Fanzone, and then we gave them questions based off of those categories. They're going to debate those questions tonight before our very souls. So they're each going to get 1 minute to open their argument, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1 minute closing at the end of the debate. Kirk, Mark, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the debate. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point. And the first person to 3 points wins the match. Spence and Brooklyn, any questions as we kick this off?
I was promised a cookie. Where is it?
I did promise you. Well, I thought it was it a cookie
you gave your judges or a croissant? One of the two.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't. I thought
I didn't realize there was a steak dinner beforehand. Like, was I supposed to call ahead?
That was just for the judges. All right, let's do this. All right, we're going to kick this off with the first category, which was drafted by Spence. It was the category of directors. Your question is, what is the best film directed by Vincent Minnelli? Ooh, I almost messed that one up. Spence, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking. I will come in to give you the 10-second warning when the time comes.
For those who don't know, Vincent Minnelli he was like this big early Hollywood figurehead in terms of creating musicals. But I think that his greatest work is actually this straight narrative drama called The Bad and the Beautiful, which is basically taking a Rashomon style of storytelling. Here is this prolific studio figurehead, this big producer who everyone knows and everyone has worked with, who is a massive piece of shit, that when he is finally accounted for, when they look at him and say, hey, you are a piece of shit, what are we going to do with you? He has to go to all the people he worked with before. It's like, are we still friends? We still have those connections. And I think it is absolutely brilliant in the way that he tells the story again with like the different perspectives going in. I think that all the performances are great. You have Kirk Douglas giving a career best, which is a big height for him. You have Lana Turner, Walter Pidgeon, and Dick Powell offering these different perspectives. Gloria Graham giving an Oscar-winning supporting performance. I think that it is absolutely brilliant at a time where Hollywood was kind of steering away from cynicism and having these more like lighthearted and straightforward stories, really holding industry accountable. It's something that was never really seen at the time.
Okay. We're going to move over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
My opponent already mentioned that Vicente Minnelli is already kind of known for musicals, and this is kind of his grand opus. Picking 1960s Bells Are Ringing. This is actually adapted off of a Broadway play and actually brings over Judy Holliday, who had been doing the lead role of Ella Peterson for a couple of years and kind of brought her on. They had brought on Dean Martin as well to play the role of Jeffrey Moss. Basically what happens is Judy Holliday, amongst others, they start up, they're part of this company called the Sue's Answer Phone, an operating system. And you kind of get to see the hustle and bustle of it. And then she starts talking to this person, and then they eventually meet, and then you get to kind of learn side plot of the house and whatnot, and they're trying to set up this record thing, and there's a ton of different songs in it. I think the story has aged well given how dating has kind of gone nowadays, and I think it's just one that people need to check out. I eat my time.
Okay. All right. 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking. I will throw up the 1-minute warning when the time comes. If one of you is talking too much, not letting your opponent speak, I will throw up the let your opponent talk. Don't make me do that. I will send Nick to your house. He smells good, but he is tall and scary, so you don't want it. 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
I think it's really interesting that you spend most of your argument talking about the story, because the story is the absolute worst part. It is not ageable. It is creepy as fuck. She holds a position of power over this man and says, you know what? I have become so obsessed with you. After doiling over you for months, if not years, I'm going to break into your fucking house and control your life. That is not an engaging protagonist. That's terrifying to be on the other side of. You're not rooting for that romance.
I think you're definitely stretching the arc of it's controlling, because if it's controlling, then you don't get the song of like what does he look like, which I think is one of Judy Holliday's best performances in that, because you get the expressiveness that she gets to carry over from Broadway. The problem with your movie is that it's this typical like movie. Like, it's about making a movie, and you mentioned in your opening that it's like he's this grand producer. He kind of starts off in the dumps, and yes, I agree that it does have this like this dirty backhandedness to it, but you don't care about it. Like, yes, you have to go from these different perspectives to kind of see if they're good friends, but like ultimately you're rooting for them to fail, and there's no redemption arc of it and whatnot. Yeah.
I don't think the lack of redemption, like the point of the movie is the lack of the redemption arc. It's a point in my favor, because the idea, like the storytelling structure of it, is here are these three different perspectives basically as he is rising up, as he is this lowly producer who immediately fucking stabs his best friend in the back, who's working with an actress who he then dates and then cheats on. It is all it is like these wonderful stories that we've all connected to as we've grown, like as through filmmaking of like Whiplash and Black Swan, of how bad can a person be and still be credited as a great artist. The end of the film literally consolidates that. They sit there and say, we made great art. I have grown as a creative because of Jonathan. Do I still credit him? Do I still help him now? And they say no. And that's the power of it. Your film rewards this bad nature, these bad decisions, this obsession. She breaks in, she makes a fake personality. She is lying to him. And by the end of it, they still get together. The lying works, it succeeds. My film is about a complicated man, and it does not reward him. It doesn't need to. But when yours is taking this like big, glitzy, romantic approach to stalking, I think that is inherently a problem that disconnects me from the story you're telling.
So I think, again, stalking it is kind of a stretch. And like what I was alluding to in my opening argument, how this has aged incredibly well, is that this is basically like a dating app before a dating app. Like before then, like people would have to meet each other in like dances or sock hops or bars, if you will. So to have this kind of freak moment, there is going to be some sort of like protection and security as to whatnot, just to make sure that we're not revealing too much. But then you get to see them fall in love, and you get to see all these great moments. Like, for example, like I Met a Girl, like the choreography in that is incredible, because you see Dean Martin just like blissfully in love, and you see like the hustle and bustle of the streets of it and whatnot. And I think that's where Vicente Minnelli really gets to shine, because of how strong he is in musicals. Yours is like mostly like this noir. What the problem is that other people have kind of done this story better. In particular, Martin Scorsese, the typical like rise of this bad person and then gets their comeuppance. In terms of people that have like never seen either of these movies, for The Bad and the Beautiful, there's better movies that tell this narrative, as opposed to The Bells Are Ringing being this like incredible musical that you need to check out. And particularly turn the page, how they use that song to highlight each composer style that they're referencing. And that's detail that you only get with Vicente Minnelli, who is so good at musicals.
I think, number one, if we're breaking down like the choreography of the dance numbers, I think that we're using it in too literal of a term in terms of musical theater. If you're looking at choreography in terms of like filmmaking and hitting the beats and hitting a timing, Bad and the Beautiful has that. Vicente Minnelli has a great level of choreography within the set. The way that the camera basically moves from this fictional film set that Jonathan Shields is shooting on, and weaving between the different set pieces and the acting and then the behind the scenes, it is riveting. It is extremely talented filmmaking. It doesn't just need to be a musical. to connect to that. But even then, if you're looking at other musicals that Benelli has done, An American in Paris, Meet Me in St. Louis, even like a smaller one that I love, like The Bandwagon or The Pirate, he has made better musicals. There are better songs that you can turn to. I think this is a subpar entrance all around, that your only real redeeming factor is Judy Holliday. You have one great performance in your movie. I have four. All four of my leads are fantastic. Dean Martin is a terrible actor in everything he's ever been in.
But that's all right. That's 1 second.
Time. All right, Brooklyn, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The problem with The Bad and the Beautiful, and in particular a movie being about a movie, is that it's so far up its own ass that as a new person that is trying to enjoy this series, you don't care for the characters. And you were talking about relationships in my movie. The relationships in yours are pretty cringe at best, in particular with Kirk Douglas and Lana Turner, how she just kind of spirals, and then Kirk comes in as this kind of like white savior-esque sort of thing of like, oh yes, I'm going to save you. And you don't really care for it. This, you like with The Bells Are Ringing, you definitely get the benefit of it also being in color as well, and you get just the sense of it. You get the great moment of like, change my lonely life that day, how it's overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge. You get the closing of Turn the Page, and that big moment of like, oh, what a system. But then the best part of like the end of the movie and how it goes full circle into them to going into a commercial that they had done at the beginning of the movie.
All right, we're going to move over to Spence. Spence, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
You related to Martin Scorsese, so I'll take that back. I think if you're looking at The Aviator, I think this takes a similar kind of narrative structure to it. Here is a man, Jonathan Shields, Kirk Douglas, who is so consumed by art, by the desire to be famous and talented, and that corrupts him. I don't think that we have to sit with good people being the center of our stories. He is a bad person, and every single perspective is showing that he is not a good person, but he's a great artist. And then there's the questioning of how good of art can you make before you give up and say the person is not worthy. You picked a movie which doesn't really work as a musical. I think that its story and the way that the songs are crafted is not essential to the narrative of musicals. I think that you have a genuinely bad lead performance in Dean Martin and a really creepy, terribly aged story. That is basically the core of your movie that does not work. Bad and the Beautiful, I think there are no similar films before it and not many after. We can learn and then we can grow. And I think it is so riveting that it is aged perfectly into the 21st century.
Time. Okay. All right. Bring in the judges. Okay. I'm going to go first. I went with Spence. I think both did a great job. Both had me intrigued in their movies, having not seen either. I was interested. I thought I was able to gather from the arguments that both of these movies were actually pretty good. And then, so it kind of came down to the offense and the attacks against the other persons. And I thought Spence did a better job of kind of tearing down Brooklyn's as a musical and as like a piece that doesn't, like the acting isn't that great and how it doesn't quite hold up as well as their movie. So I went with Spence. Mark, where are you going tonight?
Yeah, I also went with Spence. I just think overall, like kind of them arguing their movie, just Spence's sounded more interesting. It just seemed like there was more going on with it, and I feel like even though I think Brooklyn, I think kind of closed strong, I think kind of maybe made the choice a little bit harder. I think Spence overall argument for their movie was still, I think, better.
Okay. Kirk, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
It was very close. It was a hard pick, but I did go with Brooklyn, just because I feel at the beginning Spence was kind of running away with it, and as they were getting like the politics of it and things like that, and then maybe like the second third of the main argument, Brooklyn just kind of started running with like, well, here are just some things in my movie, and I think Brooklyn gave me more positives of things to like about his movies. They were even, or maybe Spence maybe even hit him a little bit more on like the takedowns, but Spence didn't give me quite as much as what was really good about their movie, and Brooklyn was picking specific things out. So that's why I gave it to Brooklyn, but it was really tight.
All right, fair enough. We're gonna move on to the next question. It was drafted by Brooklyn in the category of sci-fi icons. The question is, which character in a Transformers film would you most want as a babysitter? Brooklyn, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
So, as a father to a newborn child, you get so many like teenagers and people in general. They're like, "Oh, I'll absolutely babysit your child," and sure, you'll nod and like maybe sometime. But the most trusting people that you will ask are people that are parents and have raised children, and that's why I picked Judy Witwicky from the first Transformers, mother of Sam Witwicky. She has a great sense of discipline, and she has the maturity and patience that you want as a babysitter. Somebody that has lived a life with a child, knowing every particular thing that you need. Because surprise, if you had never had a child before, you've never raised one, there's a lot of things that come up that you just kind of need to know. And as parents, when you come back, there's a lot of information that you need to give, regardless of age. And if I'm going to put my child into someone else's hands, I want to give it to somebody who has raised a child.
Okay. All right. We're going to move over to Spence. Spence, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
If I want to trust somebody to take care of my kid, my life and joy, my reason for existing in the universe, I want them to be a good person. Like I think at the end of it all, you need someone who has a good head on their shoulders, who makes the right decisions consistently, who knows right from wrong, and will genuinely just leave like my house or wherever they're taking care of the baby better than they left. And I think that's Charlie from Bumblebee. I think that she's genuinely a really good kid. I think a lot of the conflict that she's in within her movie is her just basically trying to make the right decisions by helping the right people. I don't know what else you could want from somebody to take care of something so like fragile and helpless, for lack of a better word. I think that if we're looking at like, oh yeah, teenagers are so bad at taking care of children. A lot of teenagers are fucking assholes, straight up. But I think that Charlie genuinely understands like a good way to treat kids. She also has had a younger brother that she helped raise over time. She has the perspective of taking care of someone younger than her.
No one wanted to take Jazz, I see. All right. 5 minute freeform, and one of you starts talking.
So my thing is with Charlie, if my child was like similar to her age or maybe a few years younger, then I would trust it. But if we're talking about any child, there are so many things to watch out for. You have to watch out for like how many ounces of milk have they had that day? What's their nap routine? If they're not going to bed, how can you get them to bed? What are their gross motor skills like through that day? What are they going to be eating through the day? Are you going to be taking them on walks and whatnot? There's just so many things, and I get that sense of trust through Judy Witwicky, just the patience that she has. And like even there's a moment whenever Sam is leaving, and she's talking with her husband of like, well, if he is late, like we're gonna have to ground him. But she doesn't get emotional, and that's the thing with Charlie, is that she is getting emotional because she's still a teenager herself. She's still trying to explore, and ultimately I feel like she's looking for like another like sister or another like sibling to kind of go on that adventure, as opposed to actually like babysitting and taking care of a child.
But in the whole film, like she doesn't make any of those emotionally irrational decisions. She constantly thinks through and makes logical good, and she sits with logical good ideas. Everything that she does, from even like even if you look into like her helping B into the military base or working with Memo through anything, everything she does, she makes the right decision. She inherently knows right from wrong. Judy is a fucking psychopath. She threatens government officials because they walked on her lawn and fucked with her roses. She is not a stable human being. She has one pot brownie and is out of her fucking mind on a college campus. She will prioritize her annoying little fucking dog over your kid. At the end of the day, I don't think that she's someone who can prioritize well. Her biggest obsessions are never even Sam. She's always thinking about other things. When he's a problem, it's always about how he impacts her environment. If she comes to your place and is like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like this, she will not like manhandle, but she will focus more on how your baby is affecting everything else than your baby itself. She does not care about its well-being.
So it wasn't her actually that wanted the FBI agents off the lawn. It was her husband that was asking them to get off. Charlie does absolutely have emotional moments. Whenever Bumblebee goes into the house and is destroying the garage, like how is she gonna respond to that? Like if she has Bumblebee in that moment, and as somebody who has trying to take care of him and trying to make sure that he finds his voice, that just happened under her watch. Like I'm gonna be scared to leave my child with that, because in the adventures that she's going into, and like she's still trying to like do all these new things. Like she's trying to find a new car. She's running off to try to fix it so that she can become grown up. And I don't want to be necessarily looking for that as a parent. I want somebody that is mature, somebody that is grown up, somebody that is going to look for all these things that we're looking for in a child. I don't trust giving like a toddler even to Charlie, because she's going to want to dump it off to the next person so she can go live her life as a teenager.
Well, that's not true. She's entirely responsible. She has a 9 to 5 at that fucking corn dog stand and is very reliable there. When she comes back and is offering at the auto shop, she literally tells them, I will work for you for a year. I will scrub your shitty toilets, because she understands the value of labor. I think that she is inherently trustworthy. She does what she can with B. She does what she can with B when he's in the garage. She's like, hey, don't touch the records. They're important. And he listens. She guides him around to make sure he minimizes his impact. He's still a fucking 20-foot tall, big hunk of metal. There's only so much you can do. A baby is more controllable. And again, she helps raise her younger brother.
A baby's more controllable
than a 20-foot tall transformer. Absolutely. Her younger brother is like at least 8 years younger than her. She had to help raise him because their father fucking died. Her mom's a nurse. Do you know how long nurses' hours are? She had to raise the kid. They have a special bond because he knows inherently that she is a good person to take care of him. Judy Witwicky, I want to correct you. So the lawn is the dad, but no, literally, as the sector staff is coming through and basically plugging up all of her plants, she grabs the bat and says, "Get out, leave my plants alone." She will go to violence. She will threaten your fucking kid if you fuck with her stuff. That was her very first thought against the government. There is an inherent line that she crossed immediately over some fucking hydrangeas.
Yes, because after years of raising a child, that wears on you, and you are going to be protective of the life that you've built and all this time that you've took in raising a child. You talk about the unpredictability of raising a child. Wait till you change them to puke, and then they puke again 5 minutes later. You change them again, you puke them a third time. Tim's already shaking his head because he knows it's true.
Ellie's sick right now, so yeah, that was
so Simon, it's rough.
Horrifying. Okay, we're gonna go to Spence first. Spence, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
The reason that most parents go to like teenagers or young adults when they're taking care of the kids, because they know they're reliable, they know the weight of money, and they know the weight of labor. They know that it's an important job to take care of. Judy Witwicky threatens people whenever they infiltrate your personal space, and have raised a son who is like, oh, you know what, go fine. Her son literally fucking dies. She inherently can't take care of her kid because her fucking son had to be revived through the Allspark and the Primes. If she will let her own kid die, how can you trust her with yours? I will also say Charlie has phenomenal taste in music. If I want to be raising my kid around like anybody, I want someone to be like, hey, here's the Smiths, here's Stevie Nicks, here's Joan Jett. I think she creates a very welcoming and wholesome environment. She's experienced raising her younger brother. She experienced taking care of her house and her apartment because her mom is off being a nurse. She is fully well-rounded as someone who could be trusted in a house and with a child. and the Rolling Stones.
All right, let's go over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
So yes, while Charlie is going to probably show my child different forms of music, you know what is going to settle my child the quickest? Hours upon hours of Coco Melon, Miss Rachel, Paw Patrol, Mr. Dress Up, Sesame Street. These shows on loop that would drive most people insane, specifically teenagers. If Charlie's going to do that, she's going to want to change it in like 5 minutes. Judy Witwicky has that patience to go through that, because we have seen that she is able to raise a child, and she has the ability to let go as her child gets older, and like eventually he's going to have to learn. You can't helicopter over your child. That just won't work. The reason that she is so psychotic as she is because she has seen the war crimes. She has seen the blown up diapers. She has seen the messes made in stands. Only a mother with that patience can do that.
Oh my God. This was oh my God. Nobody wanted to take Orion Pax, huh?
Genuinely my second pick. I really did think about it.
Oh, I have watched Bells Are Ringing. I watched both of them. They're great.
Nelly fucking cooks. He's just cinema.
All right, I'm ready if you guys are.
Give me 1 second.
You're good.
One more thing here.
The other night, Ellie had a blowout and puked at the same time.
I'm gonna call it gargoyling.
It was
I had a great Spidey sense moment. Simon was like on the verge of puking, and I got the bowl in just in time before he potentially puked over the entire rug.
Beautiful. You do develop a form of precognition as a parent.
Not to get on a tangent, but I was playing a video game right before this, and Maggie was reading her book, and in the game, like a ooh, like crying was going on in the background, and both of us were like, "Is she awake? God damn it!" Kirk, we'll start with you.
This was a great fight. I think they both did a really great job of defending their pick, giving reasons why their pick is the good choice and why the other one was the bad choice. I went back and forth. I know if you can tell, I raced my board a couple times because it was really hard to lock in. It was close. It came down to the closings, and even the closings made it hard. I gave a slight edge to Brooklyn, very slight, and I think just because everything else was, I think they were just building up, tearing down, building up, tearing down, and what it came down to, because I had to lock onto something, is Spence threw out the music thing, and I don't know if that was kind of just like a throwaway jokey thing they put at the end. And Brooklyn came and is like, yeah, they're not going to get to listen to that music. They're going to have to watch Paw Patrol. And that was just a little bit that kind of put Brooklyn over the edge. But it was hard. It's one of those ones where you hate to pick a winner because they both deserve to win, but just that slight edge to Brooklyn.
Okay. I went with Spence. I don't think it was as close as Kirk did. That doesn't mean that I think that Brooklyn did a bad job. I don't think he did. But I actually bought into the Sam's mom is a psychopath argument. And I agree that Spence throwing out the music thing at the end was weird. But to me, I also was like, I felt pretty confident in the win on Spence up to that point where I was like, they're making a joke at the end of their argument, like whatever. So I went with Spence. I did think that Brooklyn, like Kirk said, did do a good job on his, but I thought he couldn't really take down Charlie at all. Like I in my opinion, I thought that his points against Charlie were pretty lackluster, and Spence did a great job of defending them. So I thought this was good, but I gave it to Spence. Mark, you're deciding it.
Yeah, I did go back and forth on this one as well, just because I kind of wanted to lean one way, but I think ultimately it's kind of where the fight went. I also went with Spence in this one. I feel like for the most part, like Brooklyn kind of honed in on Miss Witwicky being a parent, which wasn't a bad argument, but I just don't really feel like there was a ton else. I think Spence was able to kind of rattle off more reasons, and Spence also mentioned them having a connection with like their little sibling, and kind of also jabbed at the parent angle a little bit. So it was kind of like a thousand paper cut type of fight where I think just Spence kind of won this war of attrition.
It's fair. All right. So Spence is up 2-0. That means Brooklyn needs to hit this in order to stay alive. The question is in the category of YA. Your question is, what is the most exciting moment in a Hunger Games film? Spence, you drafted this. You get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Just opening now. I picked entering the arena from Catching Fire, and just to give context for it, I think the very beginning of the scene is Cinna basically holding Katniss and saying, "I believe in you. You can absolutely do this. It's going to be hard, but believe in yourself." And the second those doors close, he gets fucking murdered. Like, just cold, no explanation. She has no idea what's going on. She is terrified, locked in a glass cage, and her only real sense of relief and safety is gone as she enters a fight against 23 other people to save her fucking life. And as she goes up, she looks around and can't even trust Peta, her like story boyfriend, whatever. It is terrifying. The horns go off. They're fighting on the cornucopia. There's water. She might fucking drown. And as she looks behind her, Finnick Odair, this like hunky, terrifying murderer, throws a trident right behind her and holds up a little bangle and says, "I'm with you." And Peta is fighting in the water and he nearly dies. It is riveting.
Hunky.
Sam Claflin.
That's fair. It's fair. Brooklyn, 1 minute when you start talking.
So my moment is actually the end of the 75th Hunger Games, when we actually find Finnick and Katniss at a standstill. They had previously split off based on Jeffrey Wright's idea of like, we'll strike lightning down from the tree and we'll try to kill everybody. That doesn't happen. And there's a moment that Katniss has where she can continue on with the games, or she can try to do what they had been setting up for the first movie and the second movie as well, where the rebellion succeeds and her breaking the cage is kind of the oh shit moment of this franchise, when you realize something is going to happen. This is a moment that is set up incredibly well through the beginning of the movie. It's hinted at through various different characters, and this is kind of the culmination of all those moments coming together. And it's really a stepping stone for the franchise, because then we really get to focus on the rebellion.
All right, great picks, great movie, honestly. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
So my big thing is that both of our moments are coming off of the big pivoting point of the Quarter Quell being changed by Plutarch, having former winners come back in. Yours would be exciting, except for two things. One, her performance when she's going up that cage is truly awful. Like ham-fisted, like phoning it in, like scratching at it like she's like a dog at a door. And like she does that scene a lot through this movie and other movies. She's being pulled away as something terrible happens to her, like that elderly man being shot at the beginning who gives her the sign. And then you get to the actual moment of the beginning, and it's not interesting, because we've like she's already been through this before, so you kind of know where she's going to go, and she kind of has plot armor. Like that initial moment of like her and the other guy running through the scene, running through to get the center, and they're at a tie, and it's like, all right, well, he has to trip because she kind of has to win and keep going. The great thing about mine is that you don't know how it is going to go down. The games could continue to go down like they have done the last 75 times, or she could literally break the wall and start the rebellion that they had been alluding to from the start of the movie and inklings as well through the second.
I think her performance being bad is insane because you have to sit in it from her perspective. Right before she left, she was literally given no warning, ripped away from her family. She has no idea what her sister and her mother are going through, and for all she knows, they could be fucking dead because that's the threat that Snow has put on her. Cinna, her best friend, literally just fucking died. And yes, she's the main character, so she can still have plot armor. But you follow the whole way through the scene. You go down to, can I trust Finnick O'Dare, who's right in front of me, who looks like he's going to murder me? And then Peeta's in the water fighting. He could die. That is what this has set up. Is that, but like besides her, which again, we're telling a story. Literally nobody is safe. Every single person who we have like set up as like her friends with Mags and Beatty in the training center, we have no clue what could happen. Who is safe, who is in danger, what is even the resolution? I think that is what makes this moment so good, is this is where we finally have stakes in the franchise. Your idea of an oh shit moment, it doesn't even start here. It goes back to the first movie with the berries. And then he kills Wes Bentley. I think there are better instances of the threat and the danger and the levels of where this franchise is going to go. I think the actual follow through of your scene is better. Your individual moment, I think, is the least interesting part of the movie because we have already been there in the last Hunger Games.
You haven't already been there because in the first Hunger Games, like the game's end, she wins, she breaks the system, and in that moment when her and Finnick meet, there's an understandable choice where she could kill him because you don't know if Finnick kills him whenever they go to split off. There's a real 50-50 moment there. You're again going back to yours where Peeta potentially dies. He's going to come up. He's a secondary character. You need to have somebody to tag along with Katniss when they eventually make the third movie. And it sucks because the only threat that she really has is Finnick, and she's given to him as, or he's given to her rather as like this kind of like anti-hero. Like, yes, I'll help you in this moment, but like eventually that he could turn. And you have that moment of whether or not she's thinking like, well, did he turn, or what do I do here? And that's what makes my moment so exciting, is that she goes above what Plutarch and President Snow are doing for the games and breaks that, so that what Plutarch is setting up eventually comes to fruition.
I think you're trying to you're kind of picking like the whole movie of like Plutarch's plans we have no perspective on. This is after your scene. We're not understanding the context of your scene until you follow through. And I think you used a very specific word. She breaks the system when she takes the berries. Literally, your scene is about breaking the arena. It is repetitive. That is the point that's why it is underwhelming for me. Just because she physically shatters something does not make it more exciting or more engaging. I think the actual danger going on when this happened in the first place with the berries is inherently more interesting. What I think my scene works, the reason it's exciting, is it's not the emotional resolution. It is your hook. It is you're going through this, and as you're powering through, it's like, okay, we've been here before. Oh shit, the stakes were raised. It is not the same as the first film because her best friend just died. Everything that we could have thought is possible is out the window, and that is purely in a state of fear, just like Katniss is.
Okay, we are going to start with Brooklyn on the closings here. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Her best friend dying is not a shock in the second movie, given all the deaths that had happened leading up to that. The elderly man that gets shot for helping protest, and then later on with the Mockingjays, how they use that kind of torture to mess with Katniss and everybody else. You get a good moment in Catching Fire whenever Pete is like, well, like, what if we don't shoot at each other? And again, that's alluding to how the end of this movie is going to go. I'll say it again. This is the 75th Hunger Games, and this is the first time that physically the system has been broken. Like, yes, you can give them berries, but that's like playing within the rules that these people are giving you. This is one where she's like, no, I'm taking the resources around me. I'm using the knowledge that I have gathered through every other competitor that has been here with me, and I am going to lead the rebellion so that we can get our justice for the wrongful deaths in this scenario.
Okay. We're going to move over to Spence. Spence, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
All the deaths in the franchise already. It was literally an old man who you're talking about in District 11, and then other tributes. We haven't seen real death that affects Katniss, somebody that she knows personally, until Cinna. This is the moment where the franchise goes from about the games to about breaking the system. And I think that is what's interesting. You have the buildup from the berries, and then the death of Seneca Crane in the last movie, and then, oh, what's going on here? And as the political turmoil of everything basically to affect Katniss, to target Katniss, going on from all the districts and Snow's controlling of her, even in District 12. This is the moment where he basically finally says, I am in control. And then he goes to Peeta almost dying. And through the context of the rest of the games, you are genuinely in the same state of fear that Katniss is in. Who is safe? Who can I trust? I think that inherently sets it up better in the first movie, and not even within the context of Mockingjay. You have no clue what's going to happen after this. You are just living with her in this moment like she does. I am scared. I am terrified. I need to survive.
Time. Okay. Woof. As Bucky would say.
Incredible movie. This might single-handedly get me back into fandom. Stanley Tucci. Stanley Tucci was.
Have you never seen it before?
No, I've never. I've seen like probably the first half of Hunger Games, but that was this.
The first one is mad, but this movie's awesome.
It's great. Yeah. Donald Sutherland, Stanley Tucci, Philip Seymour Hoffman, just like a super stacked cast.
Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
Okay. Kirk, how are you doing?
I'm set.
Mark, you set?
Yeah.
You're going first, Mark.
Cool. Yeah. Pretty good fight. I think in this one I'm gonna lean Brooklyn. I think I just kind of sided at least with him a little bit more, just kind of on the kind of physically breaking the system and kind of that intrigue of, is she going to kind of succumb to what the games want her to do and kind of kill like her teammates or whatever. And I think he also had like just pretty good hits, at least on Spence's argument, by kind of tearing down the stakes a little bit and kind of how Cinna's death doesn't. It's not that it doesn't matter, but that it's not as impactful as it seems.
Kirk.
This is a tough one because it just felt all over the place. I kind of lost my frame of reference pretty quickly because we were talking about performances and other movies and how it impacts other movies and things like that. But I actually went with Spence, and mainly because there's one point in the fight where Spence says, you're kind of referencing the whole movie, and I felt that because Brooklyn was bringing in a lot of different things, a lot of baggage from a lot of different places. At least that's what I felt. That wasn't necessarily the scene, and Spence gave us more for their scene. Like, this is why this moment is good. This is what makes this moment exciting, and that's why I leaned that way.
Okay. You going to bed? I love you. Sorry. She was just standing there. Yeah, I thought this was good too. Both really good picks. Like I said, and like I said in between, I really love this movie. And I think that both picked arguably the right scenes. Like, I'm sure there's many more exciting moments and scenes from all of these, but I thought that the way they both prepped them and talked about them was really good. I did go with Spence. I always feel bad when I 3 for 3 someone and for the other person, but I did feel like Spence just did a better job at concentrating on their specific scene and why their specific scene without the context of everything else works, and with the context of everything else works. So like you could watch it as a singular moment and a singular scene by itself, away from the rest of the series and the movie, and it works as an exciting moment. But even when you bring in all the stuff that's happening right before it and right after it and whatnot, it adds to it. I thought Brooklyn did a great job. I agree with Mark where Brooklyn was talking about like the physicality of breaking the system and of the arena and everything, and the like excitement of not knowing like, oh, is she gonna kill Finnick or is she not? But I thought Spence had pretty good counters for that, and on the whole, I Spence painted in my brain the more exciting moment. So I did go with Spence, which means your winner by way of knockout is Adelaide Spence. We're going to start post-match interviews, starting with Brooklyn. Brooklyn, I preface every post-match interview this way when it goes this way. I don't hate you. Please,
I know
please, no, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But how are you feeling after the match? I imagine there's a certain way, but honestly, was every one of these split? So it's not like it was a total drag down. I feel like it was you played really, really well. Spence just had that edge.
Yeah, no. When the green room got set, I was incredibly stoked to take on Spence. We have very similar energy. We have very similar interests. It took a lot not to pick like food movies. As a kind of an homage to that, but no, I wanted to compete, but yeah, like the writing's on the wall. This is my 4th loss in a row. I think this is it, and it's so weird because I've been thinking about it all day. My first match in this community was like 6.5 years ago. And like this is now like my last, like I'm not my last thing. Like I'm not in Fandom, I'm not in Melee, I'm not in any other league. So like this is it. It's weird because I've loved this community and I've loved meeting everybody that I have and getting to discuss whether it is like music and movies and getting asked years ago to help run what was the start of this league, and then Tim, you coming in, and you and Tuig and Mark and Brian and Kirk really kind of taking this over and really finessing it into a well crafted league. I'm just glad that I was a part of the arc, or part of the evolution of this. So yeah, I'm just grateful to be here, regardless of the loss. It was a fun time.
Yeah, Brooklyn. I mean, you didn't say the words. It felt like you might be saying the words that you want to say. We want to have you back. So
if you want, if you want to keep feeding me to newcomers, absolutely. But yeah, I figured after 4 losses in a row, I would have been taken up behind the shed.
No, I always have that conversation with people beforehand. But no, I want to have you back. I want to see you back because we have to remember that your first win was also a knockout. Like your first match, you won by KO. It's not like you are bad at. There are people who have lost 4 in a row and are very bad at this. You are not very bad at this. So I think it's just a mixture of unluckiness, going up against good opponents. I think your first loss was against someone like, was it Bill? I feel like it was.
It was Bill.
And so like you've gone up against like title challenging competitors. I think Spence could get there in this league as well. I think you could get there in this league as well. So I appreciate all the kind words that you said about the league, and I agree. It's been a long time, and it's always good to see you here. I like having you here. So if you're the next time I have a green room for you, I'll message you first. You still in? You still ready? All and right. If you're there, we'll have you here. So Brooklyn, congrats on a match. Really well played. We'll hopefully see you next time as we bring in the winner today, Adelaide Spence. Spence, I said this recently, and I'm going to look at the release date so I make sure I got it right. We do not know how far Rue got in his recent title picture because we just haven't shot it all the way yet. But I said to him at the end of his match against Robert that he won that it could be the year of Rue in debate. It's shaping up to not be a bad year for Spence either.
Steve only Ricky Bobby. I don't need this.
a good performance in the last word event, and now you're here. In a knockout. This is pretty impressive stuff, Spence. So, like, how are we feeling after this one?
I weirdly enough, I felt the most confident about the baseball question. Like I was put in the chat. I pulled a Jack Pinchuk. I have a full opening argument written that I read to him, and he's like, "Oh my god, that's beautiful." Like I felt so good when I was ready. I wanted to lose that question, but no, I stressed. I like just being the player. I do this whenever I play. It's like, oh wait, you're good. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I don't want to get respect on me because people will be like, "Oh, you take this seriously." I don't just stop looking at me. Just pretend I don't exist, and I'll like sucker punch you. That's the goal.
That's fair. Spence, this was not part of a title picture, but what this does
Just
mean is you have earned your a place in the tournament. Anybody in the tournament you're looking to play?
Do you know where I'll be? Because if I'm like bottom half, I'll just like take a nap.
You'll probably be bottom half. But.
Yeah, okay. I did love going up against Jacoby. I think it was like 2 years ago now in that tournament. If I can have another Charlie Chaplin and a black guy question, I think that's like my only way of making like an impact. Other than that, it's just praying to God someone like has a stroke in the middle of a match and I can maybe get a point. Not confirmed, but like just a guess.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, Spence, congrats on a match well played. And congrats on the knockout. We will see you later this season. But that's gonna do it for us today at Fanzone Debate. I want to thank Kirk and Mark for judging this one with me. It was a lot of fun. Thank you to Brooklyn and Spence. Thank you to everyone else behind the scenes who helps out with running this league. I have been Tim. We'll see you guys next time with another great match. Until then, bye-bye.
There we go. Thanks a lot. Come again.
Hey, I won't forget what you've done for me here today.
I would prefer that you do.